what do you think of MGTOW?
I understand it. I understand why men would want to go their own way, because it's a tough one though. As much as I do get the movement of men wanting to go their own way and just focus, I think it is an extremity of something that could be necessary. If you want to be a man who goes your own way and you want to just develop yourself and, get in the gym and do something that's meaningful to you and something that brings you purpose in your life, and if you want to maybe go overseas and try and find like a partner that way, then great. If you want to focus on yourself, but I think that you have to think about what the end goal is, because if you want to go your own way so that you can just be this lone wolf, no one wants to be a lone wolf. We all need networks in our life, and we all need and I think that it's nice to have the possibility to eventually have a wife. And I would because this is what I do, I'd recommend going overseas and dating girls over there. So it just depends. I think there are different strands of it. I haven't done a great deal of research into it, but from what I understand, it's men who are like not seeking at all to eventually have a relationship or have kids, right?
One of my many adventures that I had when I got involved with the men's rights stuff, there's obviously crossover with MGTOW. Some men's rights people are MGTOW, some are not. And I got invited to go to this retreat in very rural mountain area of North Carolina with a bunch of these MGTOW people. It was like 3 or 4 days, like in this mountain retreat, like really in a remote area of Western North Carolina. And it was a real interesting experience, because even though these people were different ages and came from different areas and have different educational and different work backgrounds, to me, in terms of their relationship with women, they all were very similar. And to me, my impression after living with them for 4 days was that these are people that in any culture at any time, we're going to have relationship issues, because they're socially awkward. They had a problem relating with women that really, you could remove feminism, they still would have a problem. And so it was interesting. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm not saying I didn't feel sympathy or feel sorry for them, but it definitely, I made a decision that weekend that I wasn't going to spend like any time with that movement, because I didn't believe the movement was about a political thing. I believe it was about a personality type. You can't.
Yeah, no. In that situation, I wouldn't condone it. If I was like in that situation where I was very socially awkward and not struggling to connect with women, I'd go the opposite way. I'd go men going towards women and just trying to spend more time with them and trying to have more conversations and trying to like ingratiate yourself a little bit with different women and make that a little bit easier for you. Because if you go your own way and you isolate yourself from women, then you don't get any experience with them at all. And it's a muscle that you develop.
Every couple of years, maybe more than a couple of years, maybe like every 4 or 5 years, I'll spend a couple months where I'll like watch a bunch of YouTube videos of all the dating guru people, which there's quite a few, and some of them have quite big channels, and they don't really vary that much. The people maybe vary, but they basically tell you the same kind of, I almost say, cookie cutter template of how to be successful with women. And it's make a lot of money and go to the gym and this, that, and the other thing. And those things obviously work for a lot of people, and they apparently work for those guys, but it's very simplistic, because there's a lot of different ways, but you have to be able to connect. You have to be able to relate. I never had any problem having girlfriends or wives or anything. And I don't have any of those things. I'm not super wealthy, don't have a fancy car. I don't have any of the things that are recommended on these channels, but I'm smart and I'm funny and I can talk to women. I can talk to them and talk to them and talk to them. And that is more important than all those other things put together. And when you talk to those MGTOW people, that's a problem they have, is they can't communicate with women at all. And
yeah,
that's a big problem.
You have to stimulate a woman's mind, if you ask me. I mean, They love a guy who can A, take control of the conversation, B, hold the conversation, and C, create some sort of mystery, something that leaves them wanting more. So some part of them were like, oh, that part of him was really interesting, but I don't feel like he gave me everything. I feel like there's more to learn there, and they want to dig a little bit more. If you leave them feeling like they want to dig more and they want to know more about you, and you have this air of mystery, then that's, yeah.
You hit that you hit the nail on the head. That, and you tied the one thing that all the dating guys say that I'm complete in agreement is that you have to have is when they talk about abundance, and they talk about the ability, and this goes back 30 years to Tom Likas. Did you ever listen to Tom Likas stuff from years
No.
back? He was like, I mean, every single thing that Andrew Tate, any of these people are saying today, you can go back and you see the grandfather of that was Tom Likas, who's a huge hit in California DJ that focused on all of these topics, was eventually, after being a multimillionaire, eventually banned because he was on the CBS radio network. But he talked about all of these things. But the thing is that if you can walk away, that makes you much more attractive. A desperate man is the most unattractive thing.
Oh yeah, 100%. And they can smell it. They can smell it in a heartbeat. I've noticed that about them. They have like a desperate detector that is so apparent.
I have had so many times where I've gone out with really beautiful women that I'm sure that people thought this person is like she's like way out of your class. And I meet with them, talk with them, and sociable, and have a very interesting conversation, and then leave. And I don't try to take them back to my hotel. I don't do, and I just wait. And if they don't call me back, there's someone else. And you know what? Eventually, they all do, because if for no other reason, they're dying of curiosity, because no other man has ever not called them back because they're so hot and they're not used to that. And when you go out with someone like that, if they act really bad and you call them on it, a lot of times they're not used to that either, because they're used to men just falling all over themselves. No matter how bad their behavior is, they're not used to a man walking away, because they're like, I'm too beautiful, I'm too hot, just because I did this, that, or the other thing. No one's going to reject me because I'm too. And
yeah, if you walk away, they come back. It's crazy how many times this has actually worked for me, and like literally happened to me last week with that exact same girl, that girl that I was like debating with. Eventually, she's a very beautiful girl, and at the end of the night, I said, "Oh, like, nice to meet you." Whatever. I walked away, said thank you. Boom, it was done. And then it must have been eating away at her that I just did not care. And then eventually, like clockwork, I knew I was expecting it, and she came back.
It's so powerful. All the gym stuff and the fancy car stuff, that's all good. It could be helpful, but nothing is as good as being smart and understanding these things that we just talked
Keeping
about.
the fantasy alive in the head.
Yeah, be mysterious and never be desperate. And all that stuff about, that was all put into everyone's heads for so many years about you expressing your feelings. The biggest turnoff to a woman is to sit there and complain and be needy. No woman wants that.
I've got a theory about this. So we get a lot of this narrative these days of women saying, "Oh, I want you to be emotionally available. I want you to be able to express your feelings," and that they don't. Plain and simply, they don't. But what I've realized about this is that there's a slight element of truth there. They don't want you to be emotional in the sense that you're crying when you stub your toe, and that you don't know how to handle and sort out your problems, and their problems for that matter. They want you to be able to be the boss of that situation. But what they do want is they want that moment on a Sunday morning when you've got to go to the gym and you got 15 minutes to spare, and you're lying there together, and then you let them in briefly for a moment as to what's going on in your life, and maybe a few of the troubles that you're having, and maybe that slightly vulnerable moment. And then you get up, you put your big boy pants on, you go to the gym. But they want that moment that only they get to see it. Nobody else gets to see it, because to the rest of the world, you're an animal. But then when they're with them for that brief moment, and only for that brief moment, they get to see that moment, that part of you. So that's what fantasy is about.
So what it really is about their feelings.
Yeah.
No, I just naturally am not a complainer, and especially with women, I never, like, I can have a million problems, and people that I'm going out with have no idea at all. I can have like just incredible business problems or other problems going on, and no one knows, because I know, first of all, it's not interesting. I don't like you said, I don't like to hear people complaining. My life compared to most of the world's life, I'm very privileged. It sounds obnoxious to complain, even no matter how bad my problems are.
Mm-hmm.
But that is so true. But one thing that another thing that Andrew Tate says that really nails it is when he talks about being a problem solver. Because, like, if you listen to those dating sites, one terminology I hate is the way they talk about like the number of women, like a notch count or whatever. Which to me, I don't know. It's just not me. If I have a relationship with someone, whether I meet them, whether it ever becomes intimate or not, I have to be interested in someone, and I'll be a friend with them. And if it doesn't matter, I am a friend with that person for whatever. I stay in contact with almost everyone I've ever dated, ever had a relationship with. But because I'm a man and because I have my personality, I'm always helping out people. Even I went out with like 20 freaking years ago. So I was listening to Andrew talking like how frustrated he was, everything going on in his life, and like how he's constantly sorting out, helping people get out of this problem, that problem, financial problems, like just like going crazy. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly my life. No one ever does anything for me. I'm talking about all the women I've ever dated or been married to, but I'm constantly helping people out and sorting out their problems. And it's just as a biological thing. And that's where the men's rights and the MGTOW people, there's a big conflict, because they just don't believe that. They believe you shouldn't do that. But if you don't do that, you're just breaking nature, and you're going to hit the stone wall, because
I spoke to Trent Horn last night on my podcast from Council of Trent. It's a YouTube channel. He's a guy that I quite respect. And I asked him, I was like, so what do you think it means to be a man? And he's very, very Christian, very religious guy. And he said, being a man, I thought it was a really great answer. He said, being a man is harnessing your masculine abilities to help out other people. And I thought, man, that makes the world go round. That's a damn good answer. Yeah. And if you can't look at your own masculinity, if everything you do is to go inwards, then you become this sort of hedonistic guy who just is like a little bit, and you can, like, people can smell it. Like, I think that I can smell it on a guy straight away when I know that he's like a very selfish guy, and you're speaking to him and he's constantly looking over your shoulder because there's another person who could probably maybe has more Instagram followers than you who he wants to speak to, and you can smell it. But if you're a man who like harnesses his masculine ability to help other people and to lift other people, and then I find that that's quite a powerful thing.
And that goes back to the earlier conversation we had about competence, about talking about men and women and the roles they do, and even what Jordan Peterson talks about. Because even if you found a guy that was willing to do that, if he doesn't know how to do anything, he's still useless. So you have to have the will, like you're talking about, but you also have to be able to back it up with actually being able to do anything to help other people. Because you can't, if you're not competent, you can't help yourself, let alone help other people.
Yep. 100%.
So I'm completely in agreement on that.